All systems go. Clear for liftoff.
What is going on, SHIPIT Nation, YouTube station? We are back with the Monday edition of the NBA show. I got Mr. NBA himself, Hebrewcheetah, in here with me today. It's our first show of the year, Hebrew, and I'm looking forward to talking some basketball with you. How was your weekend? How's your Monday started off? What's going on, my man?
Yeah, been good. Posted a slate plan before we got on here, so got that up nice and early for everybody. Got a massive slate tonight. I think every single team in the NBA is playing tonight, but luckily for us, we're going to be talking DraftKings, and that'll only be an 8-gamer. And randomly, the NBA decided to do increments of 15 minutes between games. So you have literally a game starting every 15 minutes from 7 p.m. to 10 p.m. tonight, or 10:30 p.m. On the East Coast. So this should be interesting. It's like a red zone type situation for NBA. So I'm kind of excited to sit down and watch basketball all day tomorrow. We have no NBA tomorrow. Got NHL, so Nades will definitely be busy over there, I'm sure. But yeah, today should be a fun slate, and yeah, I'm excited to talk about it with my man Ham.
Yeah, should be a good one. You know, I think we're going to talk 8 games, like you said, 15 minutes apart. Hey, NHL tomorrow, $200K up top. We got you covered over here at the Nation. If you aren't a member, head on over to SHIPIT Nation, enter the promo code NBA15. That'll lock in 15% off any membership plan that you have with us over here at the Nation. Gets you all the sports. Hebrew not only does NBA, he also took home a cool $100K in the NHL streets earlier in the season. Hopefully, somebody over here at the Nation can take down that $200K tomorrow in the NHL streets, because there is no NBA. And hey, I was doing the NFL show yesterday, Hebrew, and someone was in the chat saying you're the best, best in the industry in the NBA. I kind of agree with them. So happy to break it down with you today. Talk to you a little bit about, broad slate overview. I know we got 8 games. I know we're waiting on some injuries. Talk to me. You got any, strategy going into tonight that you can share with the people?
I haven't really thought too much about it. I'm kind of just going to try to make it easier on myself, and I guess just be team, play the best plays. But I think as we go through the slate a little bit more, probably have more to say strategy-wise. It's a little bit tougher because I do implement late swap a lot into my process. Tonight might be a little bit tougher. We're going to be having news hitting every 15 minutes, so projections are going to be going pretty crazy if we get a lot of these questionable tags to out tags. Yes, I think I'm just going to try to simplify it for myself, play the best plays. I do see a couple game environments that I want to attack tonight that we'll talk through. So I think that's kind of how I'm going to be playing it.
Yeah, we got the Greek Freaks questionable. We have, I think, Anthony Davis is questionable, but both are expected to play. And you said, projections are going crazy. For 2 hours once the slate locks. So looking forward to that. Let's say hello to some people in the chat today. We got our guy Go Collect in here always. The boss man, ToeTagginTambo. Hey, I'm trying to keep up with the host, man. He gets all these one-liners. I won't be doing that today, but I'll do my best. Jordan Newlands, what's going on, Jordan? Michael W. BG Little Neck always in here. Lyle's in here. Charlie, hello. How you doing? Cody Berry wins a lot. There's Tambo again. Any Kid Lightning's in there. Jasmine Chain, the great Hambino. What's going on, Jasmine? How you doing? Cam the man is in here. AD's probable. I thought he's probable. I think he's playing tonight. I said questionable, but he's probably probable. He's gonna be in there tonight. Greek Freak should be in there tonight as well. We're gonna break it on down. I'm gonna bring up the stone real quick. We're gonna give you the stone over here. Let me get over there for a second. Boom. 1 second. Let me share my screen, and then we'll get going right into this first game. If I can hit the right buttons. Sorry about that. Hebrew.
You're good. You got this. Let's
there
do
we
the
go.
hosting duties.
Yeah, I know. Hosting duties a little bit different.
There you go.
Yeah. Is it on the right stone? I don't think it is.
Yeah, looks good to me.
Yeah, it looks good. First game up, we have these Bucks taking on the Cavs, and I believe they played the other night. Cavs are 7-point favorites You got Damian Lillard. You got Greek Freak, as I talked about earlier. Both of those guys should be playing. I don't see any injuries for the Cavs. Got about a 227-point total, 227.5 point total. Talk to me a little bit about this game, Bucks at the Cavaliers.
Yeah, I feel like if Giannis were playing, like we had 100% certainty that Giannis was playing, I don't know if Cavaliers would be this big of favorites, but the Milwaukee Bucks have been really bad to start the year. Cavaliers, in my eyes, probably one of the best teams in the East, outside of the Celtics, of course, and one of the better teams in the NBA. Really, really good defensively. They really have no weaknesses in their game on defense. They've been really good. One of the best front court duos in the league, whereas Milwaukee has been pretty underwhelming defensively, bottom 8 in defensive rating. They're pretty fast paced right now as well, top 9 in pace, allowing the 9th most 3-pointers per game, and towards the back end of the league in transition and pick and roll scoring, allowed to pick and roll ball handlers. On the Cleveland side, I definitely have interest in Donovan Mitchell and Darius Garland tonight. The Bucks, one of the worst teams DVP wise versus point guards and shooting guards. I believe they're bottom 4 in both categories right now. We just saw Donovan Mitchell put up a really nice scoring night. I believe he had 30 real points in that one, got up to 35 minutes. His minutes have been kind of capped in the low 30s for most of the year, but it was nice to see him get up to 35. Definitely want to have some exposure to both of these guards tonight. I prefer Donovan Mitchell when he's only $1,100 more expensive than Garland right now with that point guard and shooting guard eligibility. 8.2K seems like a really good price tag for Donovan Mitchell, so I'm going to have a ton of him. And I'm not really too interested in much outside of Donovan Mitchell. If we got news that LeVert and or Dean Wade were out, then you could probably look to some of these back-end rotation guys. I mean, it's never Isaac Okoro. In my eyes, I'm not going to play Okoro, but I could see myself getting to a little bit of Sam Merrill. They do like his offense off the bench. He's a really good shooter, good matchup for a 3-point shooter, so I wouldn't mind getting to some of him, but I don't think I'm going to be getting to Mobley or Jarrett Allen tonight. Mobley maybe if Giannis does get ruled out, because that would he'd have a much softer matchup against Bobby Portis, and he wouldn't have to worry too much about the foul trouble. But if Giannis is in, then nothing in the front court on the Cavs side. On the Bucks side, I think you could definitely play Giannis or Lillard in this one. I do prefer Lillard probably because he's only 8.9K, and he looked really good last game on Saturday when they gave up the game in the second half. The Cavs made a huge comeback to win it, but I mean, yeah, Dame had a huge game, played 39 minutes, shot 13 to 24 from the field, 10 for 15 from 3-point range, added some assists, 9 assists, 4 rebounds, 41 real points. So I like Dame a good bit here. I think you could definitely play Giannis because he's matchup proof, put up 70 in the same matchup 2 nights ago. So he's totally fine if he plays. And then if Giannis is in, then it's nothing outside of Giannis and Dame. But if he's out, then you're probably going to be locking in Bobby Portis because he just crushes whenever Giannis misses. And that would make Brook Lopez a lot more enticing as well. Probably even make Gary Trent Jr. and Taurean Prince a little bit more interesting because Giannis just takes on so much usage that it's going to have to be spread out amongst the rest of these guys. So that's pretty much where I'm looking in this one. Kind of said a lot, but it's not a game I'm super interested in.
Yeah, no, it makes perfect sense. If LeVert were to miss, do you have any interest in Ty Jerome? I like that price point down there. 3,500, he's playing a decent amount. Any interest in Ty Jerome? Should some of these Cavs sit, or are you not going to any of those value guys over there? I know you said no Okoro. What about Jerome or Merrill, anybody like that?
It would probably just be Merrill for me. I know that a lot of guys in the Discord were high on Ty Jerome on Saturday, but he only got 9 minutes in that one. I think that's like he's not I don't know. He's a really good fantasy per minute producer when he does get the minutes. You can even look at his game log and see he scored 23 plus in 4 of 6 games this year, 4 of 7 games, excuse me. But the minutes are just like you can't bank on him getting 20 minutes in a night. It's going to be low teens most likely. I would probably prefer to get to Merrill if LeVert is out, just because I know that he's going to see probably 20 plus minutes, and he's a really, really good shooter in the right matchup. I think that he could put up a usable score as a value play.
Yeah, no, excellent breakdown there. Anything else in this? Are you good to move on to the next game, which would be the Warriors at the Wizards?
No, I think we're good to move on.
Yeah, let's move on. This Warriors team, obviously a big question mark tonight would be Stephen Curry. Is he going to be in? Which I believe he is going to be in. Had an ankle been bothering, but you got them going into the nation's capital, 10-point favorites. As you can see on the screen, they're implied to score almost 122 points. Wizards on the other side, 112, close to 112. So it's going to be a high-scoring affair. We know the Wizards don't play much defense. We got a little revenge narrative going on tonight, but I don't see him. There he is, Jordan Poole going up against his former mates. Are you big on the revenge narrative tonight? Who you got in this game? Assuming Steph is in, who you got from the Warriors and or the Wizards tonight in this matchup?
Yeah, I'm only big on a revenge narrative if the player is actually good, so I'm not going to be playing any Jordan Poole tonight. Half joking, he is a good player, but yeah, I'm not. This is a kind of, I don't know. On the Warriors side, it's pretty easy for me to X out the entire team, I would say, if Curry is in. I mean, it's a great matchup for everybody right now on the Warriors. The Wizards, it's not surprising that they're one of the worst defenses in the league. They give up the most three-pointers per game, give up a ton of transition points. Warriors are one of the best transition offenses in the league. But adding Steph Curry back into the mix just makes this a total X out for me, because you have all these guys priced up as if Steph was not playing. And even on top of that, we're still seeing 11, for sure 10 guys play most nights for the Warriors, and sometimes 11, even 12. So adding Steph in there, somebody that's probably going to be seeing 30-plus minutes. This is a X out for me on the Warriors side. But I do think that we can get to some of these Wizards plays, mainly the young guys, because they're committed to playing these guys like Carlton Carrington, a.k.a. Bub Carrington, Alexander Sarr, Koulibaly, Keyshawn George even. Those, I think they're all very reasonable value plays tonight. I do like Carrington the most. Pretty high on him as a talent right now. Hasn't been shooting great in the small sample first couple of games of his career, but I like that he adds a pretty solid floor with the rebounding and assist numbers. I think that when he starts to kind of figure it all out, when the team gets a little bit better, we could be seeing this kid getting triple doubles, not on a nightly basis, but he'll definitely be flirting with triple doubles once he kind of starts to get a little bit more momentum under him. So I like Carrington a lot as a value play, 4.6K, got the shooting guard eligibility as well, which we love. I do think that this could be a game where we see Sarr get some extra minutes. The Warriors notorious for playing smaller. I think that they could just run Sarr out there, much more athletic and younger than Joe Val right now, so he could kind of keep up with the pace of play if the Warriors do run out the small ball lineup. And then Koulibaly, I mean, he's just crushing right now. He's playing really well. I like what I'm seeing from him rebounding the ball, 8 and 9 the last 2 games, but that game against Atlanta, he was really impressive, just crashing the board, like putting up putbacks like every other play, it seemed like. So he looks like a really high ceiling value option, only 5.7K. So yeah, I'm just going to be playing the young guys on the Wizards sides, and then I think the Warriors are going to be an X out for me.
Yeah, I know Kuzma has missed the last couple of games, but who's getting the biggest bump on the Wizards as far as usage goes? Do you know, with Kuzma being out, is it Bub? I know Bilal's had 46 and 36 points in back-to-back games. So who's getting the biggest bump since he's missed the last couple?
Yeah, I mean, from a usage standpoint, it's definitely been Jordan Poole, but from a playing time standpoint, Carrington and Keyshawn George have seen the biggest bumps. We've seen Keyshawn get into the starting lineup, and he's been in like that upper 20, low 30 range, like, 28-ish minutes. So, but Carrington, I think he's probably been the biggest beneficiary. He played 33 and 37 in the first 2 games without Kyle Kuzma. So it's definitely him. I just think that he is very safe from a game environment standpoint. Should be out there regardless if the game blows out, if the game stays close, he's probably out there too. So yeah, I think it's definitely Carrington.
Yeah, great breakdown. Moving on to the next game, we have the Lakers headed into the Motor City to take on Hoops, Detroit Pistons. We have LeBron James, who made another name for himself up in Toronto. Last time out, he had a bunch of DraftKings points, played pretty well. I think D'Lo was in. I saw earlier AD. We're going to pretend that he's in. So assuming those guys are in, talk to me a little bit about this game. Do you have any interest in Cade Cunningham or anybody else on this game? Lakers 7.5-point favorites taking on the Pistons.
Oh yeah, I always have interest in my guy Cade for sure. I think this is a pretty good spot for him as well. But I'll start with the Lakers side. We should see them be fully healthy. All these guys, Reeves, D'Lo, Anthony Davis, all have they got probable tags, so should be good to go. Detroit's been very surprising outside of the game against the Knicks where they got absolutely blown out. They've been keeping games close against some really tough opponents. So I think that the Lakers kind of, fizzling out defensively since the hot start of the year. could provide a pretty solid game environment here. Should be able to see some elevated minutes from the key pieces on Detroit. But yeah, I mean, the Lakers, they are really struggling like right now, bottom 4 defensive rating, bottom 2 in transition, towards the bottom half of the league in pick and roll ball handling and roll man scoring. So that lines up as a really good matchup for Cade Cunningham. Talk about it all the time whenever Cade's on the slate, but he's just got arguably the best role in the league outside of like James Harden and Giannis or Jokic. Yeah, just dominating usage, dominating touch time. The rebounds are good. The assist percentage is really good. So I like Cade a lot at 8.4K. The JJ Redick said that they've been kind of struggling against drive-heavy guards. That lines up perfectly with Cade. He is 4th in the league in points per game off of drives this season. Pretty good spot for him. I don't really worry about this matchup against Reeves or D'Lo or whoever they're going to try to throw at him. He should be able to have a big advantage in the matchup. Yeah, I didn't have interest in the secondary pieces at first, but now I'm starting to see some really good price tags, mainly on Ivy and Jalen Duren. I didn't even realize that Jalen Duren finds himself at 5.8K. It's a really tough matchup. Don't get me wrong. Anthony Davis, is a beast, one of the better defenders as a center, but that's a really good price tag for Duren, who has kind of historically been a really good fantasy point per minute producer. So I have a little bit of interest in him. And I do like Ivy kind of for the same reasons I like Cade. Also because the Lakers giving up a good amount of 3-pointers right now. So Ivy looks pretty solid at 5.9K. Usage has held up pretty well for him because they're starting to stagger away Cade and Ivy's minutes a good chunk so that they each have that role with their respective units. And then Tim Hardaway Jr. I think could probably make the pool. Same with Malik Beasley. Good matchup for 3-point shooters. So I don't mind those guys, but nothing really stands out as like a glaring value. On the Lakers side, pretty big price tag bump on AD right now, 10.8K, just a couple $100 behind Giannis, but definitely well deserved. He's just dominating usage right now for this team, 30.7% usage rate, which is first on the Lakers. Top 7 in front court touches on the year. They're just going to be running the offense through him. This is definitely a tough matchup. Jalen Duren and Isaiah Stewart have shown to be improving defensively around the rim. The Detroit Pistons have been one of the better rim protecting teams this season, but matchup doesn't really matter enough for me to get off of AD. He's definitely got some of the highest ceiling on the entire slate. So I will have some of him tonight. I like LeBron at this price tag. The minutes are really good for him. He did bounce back after a couple down games. He had a 55 pointer against Toronto. Much easier matchup than this one. This one is still easy too for wings, but Toronto has been one of the best teams to attack with wing guys. So I do like the spot for LeBron at 9K. Really good price tag. One of the better point per dollar spend ups on the slate. Definitely prefer the upside of AD, but at a almost 2K price difference, I think you got to have interest in LeBron at what is normally a pretty weak small forward, power forward position. As far as the secondary pieces go, I'm kind of into D'Lo tonight. Have not really been on him this season. His minutes are not safe. There will be times where he just gets straight up benched for like a Max Christie or Gabe Vincent. But yeah, this is one of the better spots for guards. The Pistons are last year they were one of the worst pick and roll teams in the league. This year it's kind of the same thing. They are allowing over 20 points per game in that category. That's kind of where D'Lo is going to make most of his offense come from. I believe last year I think I cored D'Lo when he was like 4% owned, 5% owned in the same matchup with like a fully healthy Lakers team, and he put up 50, 60 points, something like that. Not saying he's going to get that again, but I do know that he's got that within the range of outcomes in the right matchup. And he did show a little bit more life last game, played 32 minutes, shot 7 of 13 from the field, 3 for 6 from deep. The assist numbers look pretty solid, like right around 5 to 6 a game. So I think that he makes for a very good value play and a possible pivot off of some guys in the next game that we're going to talk about.
Yeah, no, excellent breakdown there. I'm hoping my guy, your boy, what do you call him, Beef Stew? Isaiah Stewart comes in and socks LeBron in the nose again. Malice in the Palace 2.0 like they did. I don't know if that was last year or 2 years ago when they got into it. But no, excellent breakdown there. You talked to Duren. What about, man, Timmy Hardaway Jr. all the way down at 4K? How the mighty have fallen, Hebrew, with Timmy Hardaway down at 4K. I mean, he's unplayable, not very good. But I like all your points. And, yeah, you mentioned Duren and the guy in the chat did as well. Cam did in the chat as well. Excellent breakdown there. Moving on to the next game, and you said it, no Jaylen Brown tonight. Talk to me about this game. Celtics, big boy favorites, 10-point favorites, got about a 230.5 point total in this game. We know Trae Young has seen his usage go skyrocket with this Hawks team, same as Jalen Johnson. Talk to me a little bit about the Celtics minus Jaylen Brown against this Hawks team.
Yeah, New Orleans remembers. It was I do remember now that that Melly slate towards, I think it was like middle of the season, something like that. That was a nice day for us. Yeah, this should be another really good game to attack here. I like this game environment as a whole. Atlanta's kind of been, they're the same team as last year, play really fast and pace, pretty weak defensively. Added a guy like Dyson Daniels, which definitely improves their on-ball defense, but otherwise still really weak defensively. I think they're dead last in three-pointers allowed per game, which is not something you want to be dead last in when you're facing the team that makes and shoots the most three-pointers per game. They're also dead last in pick and roll ball handler, points per game allowed, bottom 3 defensive rating, top 4 in pace. So all the things that you would expect from a team that's going to be giving up 121 implied points to Boston. But yeah, the Jaylen Brown news definitely is big, and we're going to see some ownership flow to these guys. I definitely am in agreement with it because Brown is a high usage guy. It's just like if you took away Tatum, a lot of these guys would project really well. I believe Jaylen Brown he's first or second on the league on the team right now in usage, so that's going to have to be spread out amongst these guys. Obviously, the most likely one to take that usage would be Jason Tatum, 10K. Yeah, I mean, it's not like a set and forget it type of thing with Tatum. He's been really good in a small sample this season without Brown on the court. Sees a near 7% usage rate bump, averaging almost 74 DraftKings points per 36 minutes, but that's in a 60-minute sample. And I wouldn't take that too much into consideration. Some of those games were blowouts. Some of those games were against some really weak opponents. But even last season, 5% usage rate increase, averaged 51.09 DK points per 36 minutes. And in 10 games without Jaylen Brown, he averaged 50.2 DK points, which is, it's like kind of in line with his projection right now. I think if he got that, you'd be happy with it, but it's not a smash by any means. He only topped out at 66 DK points once in a matchup versus Detroit, where Detroit was terrible last year defensively. I mean, this is a really good matchup, though. Obviously, Atlanta, like I said, were one of the worst defensive teams, so I think that he makes a ton of sense. If you're betting on the game environment staying close, I think you would want to have Tatum in there, but he's not like a lock by any means. I like Derek White the most in this one. He's averaging 37.3 DK points per game without Jaylen Brown last season, and the matchup cannot be better for him to put up a ceiling game with the weak 3-point defense of the Atlanta Hawks. Yeah, I think Derek White puts up a huge game here. I'm not sure if they're going to be putting Dyson Daniels on him or how they're going to do the matchups. I think it's probably Ricochet on Tatum and then probably Dyson on Derek White, which wouldn't be great, but Derek White's going to be playing off ball a lot more. He's going to have some open looks with Tatum kind of garnering most of the defensive attention. So I like him a good bit tonight at 6.7K. Drew Holiday, 5.4K, very good value, going to be owned because of that. He doesn't look does not look like great chalk to me right now. He has not been that great of a fantasy point per minute producer with Brown off the court last season, only averaging 0.92 fantasy points per minute, averaged 27.5 DK points per game in games without Jaylen Brown. So I think at chalk, we could probably look to get away from that. I kind of like Peyton Pritchard at 200 cheaper with the shooting guard eligibility as well. He's been one of the best players on the Celtics this season, obviously going to be running that second unit, but he's been kind of eating into Drew Holiday's minutes a little bit. We saw him pretty much ice out Drew from a minutes perspective in that the Pacers game where they made that big comeback. And I kind of think that was by design. Like, they want to get Pritchard a little bit more. Drew's getting older, so they probably want to preserve him a little bit. They're definitely going to want to have Drew Holiday out there for his defense on Trae Young. But yeah, I mean, I still think that Peyton Pritchard has very high upside in this matchup, and he's pretty safe from a game flow standpoint. He'll be out there if the game's close. He'll be out there if the game is blown out, and you kind of would prefer the game to blow out because that's kind of where you see him put up those crazy 40, 50-point games off the bench. So, yeah, I have a ton of interest in Pritchard tonight. I think Al Horford is fine. He's been pretty good without Jaylen Brown in his career with the Celtics, averaged 28 DK points per game last season. And then lastly, these secondary pieces, Luke Kornet, Sam Hauser. Seeing Luke Kornet as the projected starter right now, but I would not be surprised if Sam Hauser was announced a starter. They kind of used him in these types of spots last year with Brown out, so I could see Hauser getting the start. But either way, I have interest in both of these guys. Kind of want Hauser to come off the bench because I think that some ownership will flow away from him, but I think that this could be a pretty good spot for him for somebody that's only 3.5K against the weakest three-point defense in the league. And then Atlanta, it's pretty much Trae Young and Jalen Johnson for me. I would probably prefer, if I had these guys, to be betting on the game environment staying close. I'd probably want a Celtic on the other side of my roster if I have either one. But yeah, I mean, these guys are pretty much just they're the entire offense. If Trae Young's doesn't have the ball in his hands, it's going to be Jalen Johnson and vice versa. These two guys are second and third in the league in touches per game, over 100 per game, which is pretty crazy. That's like Jokic level numbers and Luka level numbers. But yeah, I mean, I don't know if there's really much I could say. I mean, the individual matchup for Trae against Drew Holiday is definitely tough, but the Celtics have really been struggling against pick and roll heavy guards this season. I think, give me a second, I'll pull that number. They are bottom 6 in the league in points per game allowed to pick and roll ball handlers, and Trae is 8th in the league right now. Kind of, that's as expected. He's always been a pick and roll heavy guard, but yeah, this could be a good spot for Trae, and I don't think that people are going to want to go there in what on paper looks like a bad matchup and an elevated price tag. But man, he's been really good to start the year, so I do have interest in Trae, but I would want to be betting on the game environment staying close. And then Jalen Johnson, one of my favorite players in the league. I really like what I see from him so far. All the preseason hype he's lived up to it. He's second on the team in pretty much all like the ball handling stuff, second in usage, second in assists, second in rebounding. So that kind of tells me that we're going to be seeing him flirt with a triple-double a lot this season, and we saw it last game. He put up 9 rebounds, 8 assists, put up 9 assists the game before that, 17 and 12 rebounds the game before that. So he's the ceiling is really high for Jalen Johnson, even in a bad matchup. But yeah, those are the only two I'm really looking at right now on the Hawks side.
Yeah, what's your take? Are we going to have to adjust that ownership? I know, looks like Trae and Jalen are fine. Those other 3 guys are sub 0.5%. They may need to come up a little bit. I don't think they'll be played that much. I like Dyson Daniels a little bit coming off an injury. I went back and looked as well. They did play last night. This is their 3rd time to play back-to-back this season. Minutes haven't really been affected on the second night of a back-to-back, on top of the fact that these guys played limited minutes last night because they blew out the Pelicans. I'm with you. I like these Hawks tonight. I think they can keep it close. What about Al Horford as a pivot off of Luke Kornet? I mean, if that's true, 35% versus 4% on ownership, I think I like Horford. I understand he's $1,000 more expensive, but I think Horford maybe could do some things that Kornet. What's your take on that, or no interest in Al Horford over Kornet tonight?
Yeah, I like Al Horford a little bit. I think that he's probably slightly underprojected right now from just a pure projection standpoint. Definitely don't know if Kornet and Horford's projections deserve to be this close together right now. I mean, Luke Kornet played 30 minutes last game against Charlotte. If we get 30 minutes from Kornet again, I would probably prefer him. But yeah, I mean, Al Horford definitely in play for me tonight. And it does make sense as a slight pivot / leverage on his own teammate.
Yeah, I mean, I'm with you that Derek White is my favorite Celtic as well. I think he's going to come with the ownership. You see Jordan in the chat talking about him. You like him. I like him. I think a lot of people like him. And then Nij the Great says that PGs, not Paul George, but point guards have been cooking the Celtics this year. So hopefully Trae Young is in that camp again tonight. I'm not going to get started on my guy either for the Hawks, Hebrew. I'll save that to when he puts up another 36 DK points. If you are just joining us, Brandon, we appreciate you being here. I know you're new to the channel, so appreciate you tuning in. We're here 6 days a week We put up cores. We put up slate plans. This is called The Stone. We have it for all the major sports over here at the Nation. There's 250 of you watching now. Make sure you're hitting that like. Make sure you're hitting that subscribe. Tambo's going to give away a nice giveaway when we get to 9,000 subscribers. I think we're a couple hundred away from 9,000. When we get to 10,000, we're going to have a huge giveaway. So appreciate all the support that you're giving us over here at the Nation. Moving on to the next game, we have my Memphis Grizzlies headed up to face the Brooklyn Nets. 5-point favorites. Not a very high total game, 223, one of the lower ones that we see tonight. This Nets team, not very good against bigs, in my opinion. You got any love for Zach Edey, Ja Morant coming off a triple-double a couple nights ago? You know me. I never play any of these Nets, but I don't hate Cam Thomas tonight. Talk to me a little bit about this game, Grizzlies at the Nets.
Yeah, the Grizzlies playing very fast right now, and they're thin, which is kind of two things you definitely love to see. The Nets have not been terrible or great defensively, but they are playing up in pace a little bit. So I do think that this game could shoot out. I think the last time these teams played, we had some pretty decent fantasy scores all around. Ja was kind of limited there, but it's kind of been the theme for him all season long. But yeah, starting with the Memphis side, the projections kind of don't think that this is a good spot for them. I kind of disagree a little bit because I do like what I've been seeing from Ja. Last couple of games, he got up to 31 minutes last game. Going to see a little bit of Dennis Schroeder, decent defender, going to have a big speed and athleticism advantage here. But I really like what I've been seeing from Ja, getting involved as a passer and a rebounder a lot the last couple of games, being a lot more aggressive. And if we're starting to see him get at that 32, 33 minutes a game, then that's a pretty big difference from where he's been at just like the 28, 29 minutes. So yeah, I think he's a really strong play at 9.3K. These secondary guys, I just don't think I'm going to get to them. I think you could always keep Jaren Jackson in your pool just because he's got the rebounding upside. He's got the steals and blocks upside. You mentioned is a good matchup for the big, so don't mind going there. I think Santi Aldama is kind of interesting if he's starting. He's been one of the most consistent players for the Grizzlies all season long. Probably has one of the higher minutes ceiling as well. Been seeing 35, 33 kind of consistently, but he's been in the 30s. In pretty much every game, he's seen more than 28 minutes. So if we get 28 from Santi, then I have no doubt that he's going to be pretty decent at 6.2K. Scottie Pippen Jr., probably a little bit too expensive for me for the role. Jalen Wells has been really good as a starter lately. The coach said that he's going to be seeing more opportunities when this team even gets healthier. So that is pretty good, seeing 36 minutes in back-to-back games. I don't know, 5.1K seems a little bit too expensive, but I wouldn't be Xing him out. Kind of same thing for LaRavia. ED kind of showing some forms of life. Last two games played 24 and 22 minutes, put up 23 and 28 DraftKings points. If we get 22 to 25 from ED, I think that he's definitely in play. But otherwise, not a ton of interest outside of Ja on the Memphis side. On the Brooklyn side,
hey, real quick on going back to Ja. Why are these guys only playing 28 to 32 minutes? Is it just because they play so many guys? It's so frustrating when you roster Ja or Jaren and they're not playing. Put Ja in there for 38 minutes. He's going to get a triple double. Is it just early in the season? What are you hearing out there on that?
Yeah, just early in the season they said. Well, I wish that they said it before the season started, but after the first couple of games, they're like, we're going to be easing Ja in. You saw him play I think he was on pace for 26, 27 minutes against Utah. Ended up playing 28 in that one. Still put up a decent score, but they just wanted to ease him in because he'd been out for so long with that shoulder injury. I think that probably just kind of easing him in to get him back up to full game speed. They're kind of at a point now where they don't really have that luxury. That it was easier when you had Desmond Bane and Marcus Smart and all these other guys that would mix in. But now, you're talking about playing like Scottie Pippen Jr., Jalen Wells as your backups. So I think they kind of have to start getting him out there for 32, 33 now. I'm not sure when the dust kind of settles on him, when he's fully healthy and ready to go, what the floor for minutes would be for him. I still think it's probably 32 to 33, but I don't know. In a close game, maybe we get 34 from him. I doubt it, but I still think he's a good enough of a fantasy point per minute producer that he can get there in 31, 32 minutes. But yeah, that's basically what I'm hearing. They just wanted to ease him in.
Appreciate it. Yeah, head on over. Sorry to cut you off. Talk to me about these Nets. Any love for these Nets? I see, Schroeder in the chat. Cam Thomas always going to be chucking any of these bigs for the Nets. Talk to me about these guys.
Yeah, I think now that we got the prices close enough on Cam Thomas and Schroeder, you kind of have to lean Cam Thomas. I mean, Schroeder's been amazing to start the year, but he was a much better play at 6.2K versus 7K. I just think that the minutes, like, we're going to be getting 33 from him now moving forward, and he's like right around 1 fantasy point per minute. I think that he kind of just ran really hot in some decent matchups. He did have a good game against the same team a couple nights ago. Put up played 34 minutes, put up 51 DK points, but he's been, I don't know, a little bit less aggressive now, 4 of 12 shooting, 3 of 7, whereas he was taking 18, 14, 15, 12, 16 the first couple of games this season. So, yeah, give me Cam Thomas at those prices when they're that close together. We know what Cam Thomas provides. You'll know right away what kind of game you're getting from him if he's knocking down his first 3, 4, or 5 shots. Probably going to be going for 40 plus, but yeah, very, very streaky shooter, but high volume shooter. So I think you kind of live with the ups and downs with a guy like Cam Thomas. I do like the matchup for Cam Johnson, though. The Grizzlies have been getting beat by 3-point shooters, mainly catch and shoot 3-point guys. Cam Johnson been shooting the ball really well, and he kind of just always looks like a pretty solid value in the mid 5Ks. Been averaging right around 30 DK points a game. So yeah, I like Cameron Johnson here tonight. But yeah, I mean, okay game to attack, not the best in my eyes. I don't see myself getting too deep into it.
With they played last night as well, second night of a back-to-back. No Ben Simmons tonight. Ben Simmons playing around 25 minutes. Who's the biggest beneficiary? Is it Schroeder? Is it Cam Johnson? Who's the biggest beneficiary with him off the court tonight?
Yeah, I mean, definitely a Schroeder, like Cam Thomas even, I would say Nick Claxton to a degree as well. He kind of covers the point guard and center position at the same time. So I would say the guys that need the ball in their hands, like a Schroeder. So yeah, I do agree with what Little Neck is saying. Better assist numbers for Schroeder. I'm just kind of okay fading him at that 7K price tag. That's kind of how I'm looking at it.
Little Neck's talking about an ass rate and ball handling that goes up. So yeah, I don't know what that means. What you're referring to? No, I'm just kidding. I know it says assist rate. Moving on to the next game, we got the Kings taking on the Miami Heat, the Sacramento Queens, as Shaq infamously once said about them, taking on the Heat. Pretty close game. Should be a straight-up game. Got a 1-point spread, 223-point total. Any love in this game? I know Horter missed the last game. Should be back tonight. No injuries, major injuries over that I'm seeing on the Heat. Talk to me a little bit about this game. Kings at the Heat in Miami, 7:15 Central start time, 8:15 Eastern start time.
Yeah, I actually don't think that Herter is going to play. He was at shoot around, I believe, and then he left midway through with the illness. That's not a good sign. So I'm kind of expecting Herter to miss, and that's how I will be, I guess, gaining a little bit of leverage on the slate, because I don't see a lot of ownership going to guys like Keegan Murray or Monk, who would look a lot better in this matchup with no Kevin Herter. But I mean, I think this game is kind of a sneaky one to attack. I like that it's a close spread, so maybe we get overtime. We've seen the Kings just coming off of an overtime game where Mike Brown is kind of saying they don't want to play these guys all these minutes, but they're not gonna look at this game, like they're separating this game from last game essentially and saying, like, we're going to play our guys however many we need to play to get the win. But I don't think, like, moving forward, the plan is for Sabonis and Fox and DeRozan and Keegan Murray to all be playing close to 40 minutes a night. But I wouldn't be surprised to see that here. Yeah, I mean, matchup-wise and game environment-wise, does not look very good. The Heat are one of the slower-paced teams in the league. Kings kind of playing up in pace, but the Heat do have holes in their defense, mainly against three-point shooters. And while the matchup is terrible 1v1 for Sabonis, I kind of like the upside he brings, because he does have that triple-double upside. they're going to run the offense through him to a degree, and I could see him flirting with a triple-double tonight with the assist numbers looking pretty good if those secondary off-ball guys can knock down their shots, like Keegan Murray, like Malik Monk, like De'Aaron Fox. So nobody's going to play Sabonis. I don't disagree that the matchup's terrible, and he probably doesn't deserve to have a really high projection in it, but kind of want to just be a no baller and just kind of buy into the upside of the triple-double upside for Sabonis. So I'm not going to be shying away from him at all. Probably not making my pool as like a single entry player or anything like that, but definitely going to have a handful of shares in MME. Same for De'Aaron Fox. Individual matchup not great against Rozier, but he's just playing a ton of minutes. He shot the ball horribly last game, went 0 for 11 from deep. If you see that regress a little bit positively, I mean, he's probably got 50 point. I mean, if he makes whatever his season averages in that game against Toronto, we're talking about a 51-pointer, 52-pointer from him. So, yeah, I like De'Aaron Fox's upside to 8.7K. DeMar DeRozan is probably the least sexy DFS play on the slate, on any slate that he's on. He just doesn't really like wow you or excite you at all. But all he does is he's just consistent. He's averaging like right around 40 DK points a game. He's scored under 38 DraftKings points only once this season and been 40 or more in 4 of the 6 games this year. That's pretty good at 7.7K. As much as it really does not excite me to play him, I'm not going to be ignoring that. Keegan Murray seems too expensive right now at 6.3K for the role, but I do like maybe taking some overs if I was betting tonight, some overs 3-pointers for him. Really like the spot for 3-point shooters against the Heat, so I will look at some of those. And then Malik Monk, I already mentioned, I think that he sees a really big minutes increase with Kevin Huerter out when he gets ruled out, and I don't think people are going to have enough to swap onto him with there only being 3 games available after this one. So I will get to some Malik Monk, but I don't think you got to look to like Dougie McBuckets or Keon Ellis here. Yeah, that's pretty much it on the Sacramento side. And then the Heat side, I'll probably just be a max 1, Bam, Jimmy, Hero, maybe max 2 if you add Rozier in there. I prefer Hero at 6.6K. All these prices are really good, but it's kind of the same thing with DeMar DeRozan. Like nothing wows you about it. I think Hero's definitely got the best point per dollar upside at 6.6K, probably the best matchup if McDermott were inserted into the starting lineup for Kevin Huerter. So I would lean him, but none of these guys really stand out to me. The Kings have been pretty solid defensively this year.
Yeah, Newman's in there talking about Rozier as a pivot. Any interest? I know you briefly touched on Rozier, but any interest in Rozier as a pivot or a leverage play in this matchup?
Yeah, I mean, straight line pivot off of Tyler Hero for 100 cheaper, same position if you have them both at the point guard spot. So makes sense. I just kind of straight up prefer Tyler Hero. I'd rather look elsewhere if I'm looking to get leverage somewhere.
Yeah, awesome breakdown there. We got 2 games left to discuss in this session. 275 of you watching. Make sure you're hitting that like. Make sure you're hitting that subscribe button if you haven't already. Helps us out a ton over here at The Nation. Love for you to join us over here as well. Moving into the next game, which I think is going to be a track meet, Hebrew. We have the Bulls, so we know we're going to love to run. We have the Jazz. I'm not sure what the Jazz are trying to do, Hebrew. Not a very good basketball team, partly because they don't have good players, but they seem to always give DFS goodness. Bulls -8 at home, 228-point spread in this one. I think you mentioned Vooch earlier. Zach LaVine, I think, is questionable in this game. Let's pretend that he is in. Any interest in the Bulls, which I think you're going to have some interest in some of these guys. And then anybody bringing it back on the Jazz side. One thing to note, Lauri Markkanen, we do not have him currently as in. He is doubtful, so make sure you're monitoring that news. But we have him as out in this matchup. Any interest, Bulls versus the Jazz?
Yeah, I had to bust out the Bulls shirt for tonight because I'll definitely be playing some of them versus my Utah Jazz. Yeah, I mean, it's pretty much just fire up anybody that's playing against Jazz right now because this team is just terrible defensively. 8-point underdogs, which is a little bit worrisome. We've seen some really good spots for players against the Jazz, but they just can't keep the game close enough to where we get those ceiling games. Luckily, we got it against the Spurs the other night. Helped out a lot of people playing Chris Paul and Victor Wembanyama. But yeah, I mean, these Bulls are all in great spots. Love Vooch. Really like these guards, Levine, Giddey, White. If Levine is in, I probably prefer him the most. I like that the Jazz are giving up the most transition points per game. Zach LaVine seems to be one of the better transition scorers in the league, so I would prefer him. But, I mean, Giddey's got triple-double upside. Kobe White, if he's knocking down threes, could put up a huge game. So I think that you have to consider all of these guys. I'd probably be a max 2 of the 4, I think. But I don't know. I could see 3 of them getting there, honestly, with how bad the Jazz are. If they're able to keep the game close, I could definitely see 3 of them getting there. I saw somebody mention in chat, Ayo Dosunmu. He's been playing pretty good. Minutes kind of capped in the mid-20s, but he's 4.5K, really good spot for him. So I'll definitely have some Ayo as well. On the Jazz side, though, it's really tough to invest into them because they extended their rotation to 11 guys last game. So I think they'll do that again here. They're going to play Johnny Juzang. They're going to play Svi Mikhailuk. They're going to play Patty Mills. Drew Eubanks and Walker Kessler are now splitting the center minutes down the middle. Not down the middle, in favor of Kessler, but they're splitting all 48, where John Collins is now starting to become more of a 4 for this team with no Lauri Markkanen. Yeah, I don't think that I can get there on these guys. If I had to single some guys out, it's definitely Kessler and Keontae George because they have shown – Kessler's shown the highest ceiling, whereas Keontae George shown the safest floor for minutes. Probably a pretty good spot for both of them in a pace-up spot. So, maybe betting on the game environment, you get like a Vooch and a Giddey with Keontae George or something like that. Kessler plus Keontae and Zach LaVine. Something like that would make some sense if you're betting on the game environment staying close because it should be one of the higher scoring matchups on the night if all things go well. But yeah, I mean the Jazz offense just looks terrible right now. They can't stop turning the ball over. Yeah, so it's just Kessler or Keontae for me. I would want to play Filipkowski if I knew that we were guaranteed to get 25 to 28 minutes from him because he looks to be early on a very good fantasy point per minute producer, but got into foul trouble last game, only ended up playing 18 minutes, played 20 minutes against San Antonio when he was given the start, which made no sense to me. I thought he was playing really well when he was out there, but that's just the risk you get when you're playing any of these Jazz guys because they're going to be going deep into the rotation, and it's really just Kessler or Keontae that are the safest.
Yeah, no, excellent breakdown. I think we have your burner account in here. Calling it Keontae George breakout game. It was a breakout game every game last year. You love your boy Keontae. Hopefully that is the case. I heard you mention, maybe 2, max 3. Could you play 3 Bulls with no Jazz or do you think you need to have at least 1 Jazz or can 3 Bulls get there? I mean, obviously you see we're showing the stone here. Bulls look very good, a lot of green in those top 4 that you alluded to. Can you go 3 with no Jazz or do you think you would need a Jazz member if you did want to go 3 Bulls?
It feels like at that point, if you're getting 3 of them, that you're just kind of saying that you're expecting the game to stay close, which would probably mean somebody on the other side is keeping it close. It's kind of what I'm thinking. I don't necessarily want to group myself away from the optimal, as Hoop says all the time, but in NBA, I think you're okay making some rules like that. I just don't see unless they just put up 120 points in 3.5 quarters and then they pull their starters with 6-8 minutes left, then I don't know if I see all 3 of them getting there. So I would probably be pairing a Keontae or a Kessler on the other side if I had 3 of these Bulls. Yeah,
good call on that. Last game of the night, or at least on the DK night. We're not going to get into the FanDuel games, even though there are some excellent games down there. If you do want to see what we have on the FanDuel games, make sure you head over to SHIPITNation.com. We have a full core section, slate breakdown for you over there at the Nation. We have the Knicks headed in to Houston. Should be a pretty good real-life game. 2-point total, 2-point spread, 216.5 point total. One of the lower ones on the night. We saw a Jalen Brunson. I'm not going to call it a ceiling game, but he had a pretty good game the other night. In limited minutes, he came out early. They were blowing them. I think it was the Pistons blowing the Pistons out. But talk to me a little bit about this game. He's going to have the villain, Dylan the Villain, guarding him tonight, I believe. Knicks at the Rockets. Knicks -2.
Yeah, I mean, the Knicks were looking really good last game, kind of firing on all cylinders, putting up a really good game against Detroit. A lot of rim volume, a lot of transition scoring. So it was really, really good fantasy game. And we saw pretty much everybody in their starting roster put up a usable fantasy score, which is what we can kind of come to expect regardless of matchup, because we know that these guys are going to be playing a ton of minutes when the game is close. And I mean, even in a blowout, they all got there. So yeah, Brunson, definitely flashed the ceiling. I mean, he was on pace for almost 60 DK points. He only played 31 minutes. If you gave him 36 minutes, he would have been at right under or just about 59 DraftKings points, which would have been a massive game at his price tag. I think he was 8.4K, 8.5K on that slate, but now he even got a price decrease at 8.3K. For sure, a tougher matchup against Dylan Brooks, but Brunson is so good at drawing fouls. He's so good at pick and roll. Not too worried about that. I do like him. I like Cat. I mean, I like all these, really all the starters. I think the way that I'm going to play it, I probably would be okay having two of Bridges, Hart, and Anunoby. I definitely prefer the ceiling of Josh Hart, but I mean, it's Mikal Bridges is shooting the ball a lot better after everybody was making fun of him for the new shot, but he's been really consistent, playing a ton of minutes, scored no less than 32 DraftKings points in 4 straight games. So pretty much every game besides the Boston game, he's done really well, and the price continues to come down. I believe he was at 7K to start. Now he's 6.2K. So he looks solid. Josh Hart, triple-double upside. He seemingly always finds a way to get there. Even, I mean, he's kind of hobbled right now with dealing with like an ankle issue, but still in that Detroit game played 37 minutes after getting banged up, got there at 33.25 DK points. OG Anunoby definitely has the lowest floor of the three, I would say, but he flashed a 40-point ceiling last game, put up 21 points. I wouldn't expect that on a nightly basis. Like, he's probably the fourth option offensively. It's Brunson, Towns, Bridges, then OG, and then Hart. So I would not expect big game from OG, but 5.5K is a very reasonable price tag for him. And then Cat, I think that the matchup is pretty good for him. Been a lot of negative coach speak around these Rockets, mainly Alperen Sengun. Udoka basically said that he's out of shape right now. He went to the locker room and nobody even knew that he was in the locker room. They didn't know what he got injured with. So yeah, kind of just weird stuff floating around the Rockets organization right now. But I think Cat could definitely dominate that matchup. Sengun, it's a neutral matchup, but Cat been much more aggressive lately, taking 18 and 25 shot attempts the last 2 games, as well as 11 over that 2-game span. He's pretty much a lock for a double-double. He's gotten a double-double in every game besides that Boston game, which blew out. Rockets are doing a pretty good job taking away 3-point volume, 6th in the league against 3-point shooters, but I'm not scared about the individual matchup for Karl-Anthony Towns. I think he's got a ton of upside at 8K. And then on the Rocket side, I don't see a reason to like. There's no way you can play 7.3K Fred VanVleet, he's playing the most minutes, yes, but the usage has come way down. Udoka said that it's kind of by design. They want to get the ball in Jalen Green's hands more. I mean, if Fred VanVleet doesn't have the ball in his hands, he's not running the offense, then he kind of has little to no fantasy appeal in my eyes. So I just don't see a reason to play Fred VanVleet, even though he's been a pretty solid fantasy point per minute producer in his career. I would just take the $300 more for Jalen Green and hope to get one of those high ceiling games from Green. Don't really want to go to Sengun in this matchup, and with the negative coach speak, Jabari Smith, just, I don't know, like nothing stands out there. I do like Tari Eason though, 4.8K. He was kind of getting eased in as well to start the season, but they pretty much unleashed him. Last game played 35 minutes against Golden State, had a massive game, 53.75 DK points. He just does a little bit of everything. He's got a decent offensive game. He's a great rebounder for his size. He's very active on defense with steals and blocks. So yeah, I mean, if we're starting to get upper 20s from Tari Eason instead of those like 18, 19-minute games, then he's pretty much always in play just because he's such an elite fantasy point per minute producer. I'm trying to see on the stone. He's 0.96 on the year, but if we look at last year's numbers, it was definitely more than that. So yeah, I like Tari Eason here at low ownership. I know that Little Neck was on him on Saturday, won some subscribers some money, so shout out to him. Yeah, so that's where I'm going. Jalen Green and Eason on the Rockets, and then the whole starting five for the Knicks.
Was anyone missing for the Rockets the other night? I mean, yeah, he played 32 minutes and had been playing, yeah, like you said, the teens. I wonder if anyone was missing. I was trying to look it up while you were talking. I don't know, but would be interested to see that. I see a lot of Cat in the chat. People are loving Cat at that price point. You can see the difference in the ownership. I'm showing you the stone right now. Pretty much everybody, 4 of the 5 starters are going to be almost 20% owned. And on the flip side, hey, you're not going to get much ownership at all over there. That'll come up a little bit, I think, once all the dust settles. Any closing thoughts? I always do it with BJ. Give me your top play on the slate. Can't be AD, can't be Giannis. Give me somebody, maybe under the radar, sub 10, sub 15%. Your favorite play on tonight's slate.
Yeah, just to touch on the Rockets thing real quick. Yeah, nobody was injured. The game did go to overtime, shot like Harden is saying. But yeah, I mean, I would definitely be pairing Eason away from Sengun. Sengun played no fourth quarter or overtime minutes, and Tari Eason got that was a 17 minutes straight of overtime and fourth quarter minutes while Sengun was not on the court. So definitely would be pairing those guys away from each other. Let me take a look real quick because didn't really haven't looked at this, but yeah, I don't know. I kind of like Trae Young's upside at 10.3K, even in a terrible matchup. I don't think that people are going to be going to him. No Jaylen Brown. Maybe the game could stay a little bit closer. They should be well rested after the blowout game yesterday. So I do like Trae Young's upside at 10.3K. So I'll reluctantly go with him. Not like definitely not somebody I'm going to be having like 30-40% of, but I do like his upside at that price tag.
Yeah, I think it's a great call. We just broke it down, all 8 games for you. Like I said a minute ago, if you aren't a member at the Nation, head on over here. We have projections. We have Showdown 6 nights a week that my guy Hebrew has just been crushing, him and BJ. We have the Stone that we just looked at. We have a core report, a cash core report by my guy Title, a slate plan. I'm telling you right now, there's no better slate plan in the business. Give you a little sneak peek. What Hebrewcheetah writes up over here gives you the best breakdown in the industry. You can head on over to the Nation. Enter the promo code NBA15 to get you 15% off. I'll put it up on the screen if you are brand new to us. We certainly appreciate you tuning in. All 305 of you. That's it. It's 4 o'clock, right on the nose here at Central Standard Time. Any closing thoughts for the people before we get on out of here, Hebrew?
No, I hope everybody has a good night. Hopefully everybody has a good election Tuesday and stay safe out there.
Yeah, stay safe out there. There are going to be some big changes to this fine nation on Wednesday when we all wake up. But we're here to talk NBA DFS tonight. Head on over to NBA. We get our cores, get our slate plans, everything. For my guy, Hebrew, I'm Ham. Until next time, let's ship it.